Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I'm going to show how I made this first layout in my latest altered book. I have recently posted a video here on YouTube showing how I took this damaged vintage book and prepared it by tearing out pages and gluing others together to make these canvases, these substrates that I can now work on. And this is what I've done today. I'm going to start with a blank layout and then show you adding layer by layer using these original pieces of vintage paper ephemera. And I'm going to be talking about collage techniques as I go along. Also today I have a ton of free printable scans of vintage paper from my personal collection. They're on my website. I'm going to be talking about them throughout the video, and there'll be a link to those in the text box below, so go get them. If you like altered books, if you like vintage books, paper, and other ephemera, if you like journal arts, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications. And you will have more of them in your life. Let's go alter a book. Usually when I show a process video of making an altered book layout, it's not so much as teaching as talking about what I'm going to use and why I'm using it, where it goes and where it doesn't go. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to talk about some of these elements and why or why not they are going to go into this layout. I knew that I wanted to start with this lady. She's been at the top of a box of stuff I want to work with for a long time. And she's from a magazine called La Mode Illustrée, which is a French fashion magazine. And this one's from 1879. Hats. And this actually was a page to show this chapeau rond, which is her round hat. And that is it, a jaunty hat it is. So I'm going to trim this. I really like how she fits this. This page frames her so well. But now I need something to go over on this side. And I tried a ton of different things. I actually thought about using this bird of paradise. It's also very dramatic, but you see how she's looking this way and she's facing this way. I like my layouts in my altered books to be one canvas, not page. One. So if I was to add this, they're not going to really be interacting because they're not facing each other. Now, it could be that the story, the interaction is that they are both looking at something that we can't see off the page, which would itself be a story, but not today. Instead, I want something that is going to work, lean into her. And I'm using a page from another vintage magazine. This is from the Girl's Own Paper, which was popular here in the UK for decades. This one's from 1884. The Girl's Own Paper has advice, serialized stories, and throughout there are often poems, which are unintentionally bad and hilarious. And they have, this one is The Rose, A Pledge of Divine Love, by the Dowager Lady Barrow. Do we really believe the Dowager Lady Barrow existed? I don't. I think probably that's the editor's cousin's nom de plume. Anyway, they often have these dramatic black and white flowers that go around them. Color printing would have been very expensive and rare at this time. So instead, you've got, they're black and white and all grayscale, but really dramatic and pretty. And so a similar page, this was also in the Girl's Own Paper, like this in a corner around a poem. And I've rough torn it so that it's asymmetrical. And I'm very tempted to use this. I like the way that this asymmetrical line bisects the page, and that adds layer and contrast and interest. But I took a few of these pages home with me last night to fussy cut. And I got carried away, and I cut away everything that was not a flower from this one, because this actually was like that in a corner. And even though I do like this a lot, and I think this will turn up later in the book, maybe in a different layout. And that way we can carry the theme of the black and white flowers throughout. Instead, I am going to go ahead and work with this one today. This is already a strong layout, but I would like to add something to this negative space here. And that's where these critters come back in, because I was thinking that one of these would look good down here. So I want one that's facing her. Then the problem with this one is it's a little too long, and it's going to jam up against that flower. So maybe next time. Same thing with the stoat. No, sorry, ferret. And I am crazy about ferrets, but he's too big. This one I really, really wanted to try because it's black and white and dramatic and whimsical, and he's also looking up. So if this guy was in the layout, he would definitely be interacting with her. But I'm already committed to the flowers, and again, there's not enough space. So what I'm going to try, I have two that this is down to. And one is this crazy flying fox looking thing. It's so crazy that it doesn't even have, the artist doesn't know what it is, because it's titled L'animal anonyme. So it's an anonymous, unknown animal. You got that right. And I'm going to try this to see if he'll fit. And the other candidate is this porcupine from a dictionary page. Did you know that the Latin name for a porcupine is Hystrix cristata? Now, don't you feel smarter today? I'm going to go cut those out and see what we got. Before we look at adding the small pieces that are going to be embellishments, I felt that this needed a little bit of oomph. I know that's kind of surprising since we have two really dramatic images. But I decided to add this border. And this is from a handwritten letter, French letter from 1816. But look, it's got some holes here and definitely has plenty of damage, and I just felt like I had permission to turn it into something new that would be loved. So I hand tore that, and now I'm going to make this into a rough border. And I'm going to glue that down and then add the focal points back in. Oh, I want to say before I do that I also have printable scans of vintage handwritten French pieces like this. They're also free, and they're also on my website. So look below for the link. Okay, so I'm going to glue that down in a mow and try to fix it so she's covering the seam. It's going to be tight, but I think I can do that. And then we're going to put back in the flowers. Now, it would be better if they were on one page by themselves, because there's a little bit of a buckling on the gutter here. It's not perfectly flush, which is fine. That's okay. You rarely get it perfectly flush. But the thing is, if I pull an old piece over the gutter like this, and the book opens and closes enough times, that's going to wear through. And that is sometimes just the nature of the altered book. And so in this case, I'm going to do it anyway. And if it breaks through, then that's just part of the story. Because I like a little bit more of that curve. I think that gamble is worth the gaining that curve there, as opposed to having it more vertically. Okay, so we're going to put that back, something like that. And now I want to add some piece here to take up some space. Now, I got to tell you, the porcupine is good, as porcupines usually are. I actually think he could kind of go on her hat. But I am going to go with the Animal Anonymous. And partly because it's just such a great image, and I really, really, really want to use it. But also, if you look at this, there is something similar about their gazes. She is very inward looking. I would say blank. She's got a blank gaze. But why? And then you got this guy who also has a seriously strange gaze. And I'm here for it. So I can put him down here. And I think I'm actually going to lift our border up because I want part of him to be in the white space, because otherwise he's getting kind of buried there with the text. So this is going to split the difference. His chin is framing that edge, and then his body is down here in the space. Does that make sense? And finally, when I cut this out, part of it included this tiny black and white butterfly. And I think I am going to, it was over here, but now I think I'm going to add it here so that we've got more balance in this layout. So instead of this blank space and then making this all fussy and crowded, we can move it over here, and that's more balanced. I'm going to go glue this down. Before I glue this down, I want to explain something about putting paper across the gutter, going all the way across here, the seam. Again, you take a chance, and there's a couple of things that you can do. One is that you do not want to glue it super, super, super taut. If you do that, if you pull it as tight as it will go, when you open the book, it's going to crack. It just is. That's not the end of the world, but we can try to hedge that bet a little bit. What I've done is I've gone in and I'm folding here gently on the seam. And when I glue this down, I'm going to actually feed this, glue this part down taut, but then feed this ever so slightly so that there's a little bit of almost like air here, a little bit, not air, a little bit of space, so that then when the book opens and closes, it's going to have a little room to move. And if that doesn't work, and it may not, then we're just going to have a seam, a little break here, and that's fine too. But let's see if we can make that work. I've glued the lady down, and before I move on, this is a step that I never skip, and that is put a piece of, this is greaseproof paper, it's like parchment paper, or you could use wax paper or deli paper, something that's not going to stick to your glue. And make sure your image is nice and flat and engaged with the paper and the glue. You better put something over it, because if you just scrape the image, you're going to pull it right up. So she's on there now. I want to say a little bit about why I said it's okay if this does break. That's because I've been altering books for a long time. And no matter how good you are or how careful, it is the nature of a book, if it's altered, to alter. And especially when I'm working with vintage papers that have already been distressed for a couple of 100 years. So knowing that something may give way, I like to think of it this way. You can think of it as a botched mess and that it's heart-forsaken and you've blown it. Or you can try to do it in such a way that if it does give way, that it does it more in the way of, say, a classic ruin, that it's got the beauty of a ruin to it. Because now this is part of the story. This 200-year-old paper now has another layer to its messy, beautiful, mysterious story. So try to be careful, but anticipate that being a possibility, and it's okay. Boy, am I happy with how this turned out. I may very well add some mark making or embellishing in by using some shading, some watercolor or other liquid elements. I often do. I rarely just leave a layout. Usually when I'm altering a book, I will come back to it and work into it and on it over and over until it tells me it's finished. Before I sign off, I want to say please join me tomorrow, because I'm going to have a video tutorial showing how to make this inexpensive, gorgeous sketchbook. It lies flat. You can make it in all different sizes, and I'm going to show you how to make it using this French link stitch. It is not hard. It is not scary, so please join me, and you're going to find out how you can make a sketchbook. I also used that link this time with some tabs, and tomorrow I'm going to show the version with the fabric tabs and without. But I wanted to preview this book to tell you that in addition to having the animal printables on my website right now, I also made scans of these book covers from 1851. So if you'd like to go get those, the link is below, and you can make it smaller, you can resize it, make it bigger, and use it any way you want. So go over and check out the free printables. You're going to have so many scans of vintage paper to get you up and making for the next few days. If you have any questions or any feedback, please let me know in the comments, and I love to compare notes. Until tomorrow, happy